On May 3, 2026, 22,79,000 students sat for India's National Medical Entrance Exam. Exactly 9 days later, the government cancelled it. The paper had leaked. This diagram illustrates the sheer statistical brutality of the NEET exam. Every single year, roughly 22 lakh students compete for approximately 1 lakh MBBS seats. Statistically, more than 90% of these applicants will fail, no matter how hard they study. If you want to become a doctor in India, there are no alternative routes. It is one single high-stakes exam conducted once a year. You either secure a top rank, or your dream fades out completely. It is a strict winner-take-all scenario. That level of extreme scarcity creates a massive, desperate demand. When millions are fighting for a fraction of a percent of available opportunity, you've built the perfect breeding ground for an illicit market. Before anyone even considers cheating, the preparation alone breaks families. Parents in small towns across Bihar, UP, and Rajasthan routinely take on staggering debt, mortgaging homes or borrowing from local moneylenders at 24% interest to afford the 10 to 15 lakh rupees required for specialized coaching. This pressure is manufactured and sold on an industrial scale. In hubs like Kota, over 1.5 lakh teenagers live in cramped 8x10 rooms, studying up to 14 hours a day. They sacrifice years of their youth trying to beat impossible odds. The psychological toll is severe. Over 30 student suicides were documented in Kota alone in 2023. When an exam is suddenly canceled due to a leak, the grief compounds. Years of relentless work are erased in an instant, through absolutely no fault of the student. India's 58,000 crore coaching industry requires this anxiety to function. The business model depends on the exam being overwhelmingly difficult and the seats remaining incredibly scarce. The pain of the aspirants is a highly profitable sector of the economy. To understand how a leak actually happens, you have to look at the infrastructure. In 2026, the National Testing Agency still relied on physical pen and paper OMR sheets for over 22 lakh candidates across hundreds of cities. This map tracks the journey of that physical test paper. It starts at private printing contractors, gets packed into boxes, moves through private logistics networks, and finally ends up stored in the local vaults and trunks of hundreds of individual schools and colleges. At every step, the physical paper passes through private hands. But the most vulnerable endpoint is the local level, where sealed envelopes sit waiting under the supervision of a center superintendent or a local school official. Consider the economic reality of that moment. A local guard or superintendent earning 30,000 rupees a month is suddenly holding a document worth millions. A criminal network will gladly pay 5 lakh rupees for a single photograph taken the night before the test. People choose to take that offer. Exam leaks in India are rarely sophisticated cyber hacks. They are predictable, mechanical failures of human incentives built into an obsolete physical supply chain. The people exploiting this supply chain have names, and they operate massive syndicates. The CBI investigation into the 2026 leak identified a multi-state network, leading to the arrest of individuals like MSIR, a coaching institute operator in Latur, whose center acted as a distribution node for stolen papers. The math of this illicit market is staggering. Investigators found parents paying between 10 and 25 lakh rupees per student. That money travels upward, funding illegal real estate complexes and enriching the masterminds who run the solver gangs. These syndicates survive because they overlap with local political power. The strong man who secures the paper leak is often the same person coordinating booth management for local politicians. Eradicating the leak networks means dismantling a politically useful machine. None of this was a secret. 2 years prior, the 2024 NEET exam was compromised by a solver gang operating out of Patna, Bihar. They acquired the physical paper the night before, had experts solve it, and made students memorize the answers. Following that 2024 scandal, the government hesitated. It took a suo motu order from the Supreme Court of India to force a proper CBI probe and mandate a review of the entire system. A high-level committee, headed by former ISRO chief K. Radhakrishnan, was formed. They delivered specific, actionable recommendations. The primary directive was clear: Move the exam entirely to a dynamic, computer-based testing format to kill the physical paper chain. The Ministry of Education accepted these recommendations in principle. Yet, when millions of students sat for NEET 2026, they were handed physical pen and paper OMR sheets. The government retained the exact same vulnerable format. The 2026 leak was entirely preventable. It happened because the authorities in charge of protecting the exam chose the convenience of the old system over the structural reform required to secure the new one. The statistics obscure the actual human cost. Pradeep Manich was a 23-year-old laborer's son from Rajasthan. His family sold their land to fund his studies. When the 2026 exam was canceled, erasing his years of sacrifice, Pradeep died by suicide. A student from a Dalit agricultural background cannot afford 25 lakh rupees to buy a leaked paper. The criminal ecosystem that stole Pradeep's future is exclusively accessible to families holding significant capital. NEET was introduced with a specific promise: one centralized, blind exam that would act as a great equalizer. Instead, it has morphed into a highly efficient backdoor for wealthy families to bypass candidates with fewer resources. There is a deep hypocrisy in how this plays out. Reservation policies are routinely attacked in public discourse as being anti-merit. Yet the demographic fiercely protecting merit often overlaps with the demographic paying 15 lakh rupees for coaching and 25 lakh for guaranteed answers. Every government medical seat purchased through a syndicate is a seat actively stolen from a student who actually earned it. The current exam infrastructure consistently ensures that economic power defeats merit. Fixing this requires immediate, mechanical changes. First, NEET must move completely to secure computer-based testing. By generating dynamic, randomized question sets on digital screens, the physical paper chain ceases to exist. Second, the National Testing Agency requires constitutional independence. It must be structured like the Election Commission, with fixed tenures and separate funding, so it can operate without political interference or ministerial reshuffling. Third, the coaching industry needs strict statutory regulation. A 58,000 crore business that dominates the lives of teenagers must face mandatory fee caps and be legally barred from administering local exam centers. The only reason these solutions are being discussed is because students refuse to be quiet. Massive public protests and rigorous independent journalism kept the 2024 and 2026 scandals in the spotlight when political structures tried to bury them. Accountability has to be forced. Ask your local representatives where they stand on NTA reform. Demand a concrete, time-bound plan for overhauling the examination infrastructure. Right now, the exam machine protects privilege and punishes honest work. It will continue to do exactly that unless public pressure dismantles it.